What's up, guys? I'm going to run you through how to use the Quant Edge's TQE's head-to-head player comparison tool. This is a great tool for start sits as well as going in-depth understanding matchups. You can compare any two players, whether it's a quarterback to quarterback, quarterback to his opposing defense, wide receiver to running back to try to make that flex decision. Whatever you want to do, you can compare. So once you select your position, so I'm just going to start with two quarterbacks, we can compare, have a drop down. I'm just going to select Sam Darnold and compare him to Cam Newton. I can change the scoring rules provider, so DraftKings, FanDuel, or NFL.com. This is PPR. This is half-point PPR. This is standard scoring. We built spider charts for all their different statistics, whether it's fantasy points per game or interceptions per game or total touchdowns per game or rush attempts per game, whatever it is. You can get a quick data visualization to understand just how elite that player is. And then you can kind of scroll down here and you can get a closer look at everything. So we can see that Sam Darnold was a 53rd percentile quarterback. 100th percentile is best. 0 percentile is worst. This is a way to upgrade rankings. It's really a tiers-based system. So instead of trying to figure out who's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, we're trying to figure out what's the difference between first and second. What's the difference between first and 10th? Because that's much more valuable information when you're trying to make your decisions. So we compare pass attempts, pass yards, yards per attempt, passing touchdowns, rush attempts, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and interceptions. And then we can compare, any individual statistic, and we can compare Cam Newton and Sam Darnold. And when we look at fantasy points, we also look at quarterback 1 and quarterback 2. We can see where they are on the spectrum. Now, if it breaks like this, it says, this was a bye week for Cam Newton, or this was a situation where Sam Darnold didn't play because of injury, and obviously Cam Newton missed the end of the season as well. So, we can see that Sam Darnold scored 29 points this week. Cam Newton only scored 5.74 in Week 15. So that's a way to use this tool. Fantasy points by week, we can look at it on a scatter chart any week. I can say, okay, Week 15, Sam Darnold scored this many fantasy points. Matt Ryan scored this many. I can look at where they compared on the chart. And then heat maps. This is something I really love to use, and I'll show you in a second how to use it so you can take advantage of weekly matchups and understand where defenses are most vulnerable. So this is the number of pass attempts in each different section of the field. The field is broken down by left, middle, and right, and it's broken down by 0 to 14 yards and 15 plus yards. I can see pass attempts, I can see pass yards, and I can see passing touchdowns. So we see that all of Sam Darnold's touchdowns came on the deep left side of the field. Now and then if I continue to scroll down, I can see the physical measurements, how they performed at the combine. So one thing I love to do, and I'll just do it real quickly because I think wide receivers and defensive special teams is actually a really interesting way to do it. So if I take DeAndre Hopkins versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, I scroll down, look at how good DeAndre Hopkins is, right? One thing we really wanted to do was not all wide receivers or tight ends are created equal. So how do the Jaguars perform against wide receiver 1s versus wide receiver 2s versus wide receiver 3s? What's the target share that wide receiver 1s get against the Jaguars? 20%? That's 64th percentile. Wide receiver 2s only get 14%. Makes a lot of sense. A.J. Boye is one of the best cornerbacks in the league. We see that his true target share, which is a target share minus spikes and throwaways, DeAndre Hopkins is actually the best in the league at that. Deshaun Watson loves throwing to him. It makes a ton of sense. We can now see on a comparison basis where the Jaguars are allowing most of their yards. We can see that 477 short left is where they allow most of their yards. Short right's actually they see more on a completion percentage, but maybe if a receiver really runs a lot of his routes in the short left side of the field, he's got an opportunity to have a good game. We see that DeAndre Hopkins actually saw the most yards here. Now, this is obviously a great receiver versus a great defense. You're going to play him regardless, but numerous times last year you could see, for example, the Atlanta Falcons would be really susceptible to short and middle areas of the field, and that's where Adam Humphries runs all of his routes, and you could kind of get a sense of just how advantageous that matchup was. So if we change things up, the defense will adjust based on what position you select here. So if I look at running back, this will now be how the Jaguars performed against running backs. Weighted opportunity is, probably fair to give Scott Barrett credit for it. It's the best way to look at touches for a running back It's a situation where, a touch is not a touch is not a touch, right? So a target is worth more than a carry just based on expected fantasy points. So, and it's weighted changes based on whether or not it's full point PPR, half point PPR, or no PPR at all. So Todd Gurley last year had a 91st percentile weighted opportunity, which means that he was 91st percentile in terms of value of touches. And we can see the weighted opportunity against the Jacksonville Jaguars. A great example is if I switch this to the Atlanta Falcons, we're going to see that the weighted opportunity against them was 4th percentile, even though that the rush attempts against them was 61st percentile. It's because the running back targets, they got peppered with targets over and over again and could not stop. We can see the success rate against, which is, the number of runs against them that were successful. And a successful run is, 40% on first down, 60% on second down, and entire yardage needed to be gained on third and fourth down. So you can get really creative with this stuff. Very quick data visualization. Todd Gurley is a good matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. Not that you needed me to tell you that, but obviously this is a very quick data visualization. And as you go through the matchups, you can find so many hidden gems throughout the course of the week. Obviously, all of our analysts and experts are going through this tool and trying to bring you what we find, but I really highly encourage you to check out the tool. Answer your start-sit questions, find your DFS hidden gems, and a fun and easy tool, easy to understand. So, check it out at thequantage.com.